learning the difference between a solute, a solvent, and a solution. And we're just using Sprite and raisins. And I'm here with table 1. Table 1, add your raisin to your solution. And let's see what happens. I'm going to get kind of close here. I see some raisins on the bottom right now.
It's beautiful.
Mohammed says they're beautiful. Beautiful little raisins. I see one raisin is starting to do something. Now our essential question in this is, why does the raisin rise and then fall? Because they're going up and down. Are you seeing that?
Yeah.
I want you to take some think time. Think about, why does it rise and fall? And as you think about that, Chase, can you tell me, what's a solute in Sprite? What's a solute?
Solute is like what's in it.
Okay, what's in Sprite?
CO2 and sugar.
Okay, so those are the things that have dissolved in Sprite. What's the solvent, Erica, in Sprite? What's the solvent?
Water.
Water, yeah. So most of Sprite is probably just water, but everything that dissolves in that solvent, we call those the solute. Now, would you say a raisin is a solute? Does that raisin look like it's dissolving? No, it's not dissolving. So the raisin isn't a solute because it's not dissolving in the solvent. So let's go to table 2, and you guys think about, why are those raisins rising and then falling? Table 2, add your raisins. Let's see what happens. In they go. Let's zoom in on those raisins. And let's see what they do.
Nothing.
Kyla says nothing. Well, I see one moved a little bit.
Hey, that was mine. That one moved also.
Is that yours?
Yeah, that was mine.
Claim your raisin.
That one was hers, but she smashed it, then she gave it to me.
I see that one on the side there is starting to wiggle.
It's mine.
That's
Do you
mine.
think it's gonna float?
It's floating.
Around. Yeah, it's moving, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now, while those sit in your Sprite solution, Kyla, can you tell me, what's a solute in Sprite? What's a solute? What dissolved in your? Yeah, sugar's dissolved in there. Probably quite a bit of sugar. And Kaden Golder, can you tell me, what's the solvent for Sprite?
The water.
The water does the dissolving. We know water is the universal solvent because it dissolves most everything. So you keep your eye on that raisin and see if they rise and fall. And I'm going to come over here to table 3. Table 3, add your raisins. There you go. You got several there. Add those raisins. Keep your eye on the raisin. Alden, can you tell me, what's an example of a solute in Sprite? What dissolves in Sprite?
The CO2 and the sugar.
Yeah, so gas can be water soluble. There's a lot of CO2 in there. I just saw one of your raisins that did something kind of funny. What did that raisin do?
It was down, then it went all the way down.
Yeah, and now it's going back down again, isn't it? Why do you think the raisin rises and then falls? Why that rising and falling action? What do you think causes it to rise and then to go back down? Seems like it should just stay at the surface, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Now, as you look at that, Ryan Carroll, can you tell me, what's the solvent? What's the solvent in your solution of Sprite?
Water.
Yeah, water does the dissolving. So water can dissolve a gas like carbon dioxide. Let's come over here to table 4. Add your raisins. Table 4. And then you've got your solution of Sprite here. Now, Gabby, can you tell me, what's the universal solvent that dissolves just about everything?
The water.
Water, right. And so Sprite's got a lot of water in it. And Lily, can you tell me, what's a solute in your Sprite? What dissolves in that Sprite?
Sugar.
Yeah, sugar. And what are those little bubbles? What's that? Those little bubbles that you see. What kind of gas? That's CO2. And you can see those gas bubbles gathering on your raisins, can't you? Now keep your eye on those raisins. They might do something kind of funny here in just a minute. Because that's our essential question today, is why does the raisin rise and fall? Let's come over here to table 5. Add your raisins. Table 5. Good, okay. And I'm looking at your solution of Sprite, and I see a raisin just went all the way to the surface right there, and it's just kind of sitting there. And I see you've got a couple more at the bottom that are moving around a little bit. Let's see if one takes off here. Oh, almost. And this one's still at the top, isn't it?
Go down.
And some of them go to the top and then they go back down. I want you to think about, why does that happen? Why do they rise and that one stays up there and then some of the other ones fall? And as you do that, I'm going to ask Dylan over here, what's an example of a solute in your solution?
Water.
Now, is water a solvent or a solute?
Solvent.
That's the solvent. That's what does the dissolving, right? So over here, Alex, can you tell me what's a solute in your Sprite solution?
CO2 and sugar.
Yeah, CO2. I see all those bubbles. That's CO2. And it tastes sweet, so I'm sure there's quite a bit of sugar that's dissolved in there. Oh, there goes one. He's starting to float. Up he goes, and then he goes back down. Why does he rise and fall? That's your question that I want you to focus on here. Why does he rise and fall?
Up and down like that.
Any idea?
Maybe it has less weight.
Less weight? Okay. Let's come on over here to table 6. Add your raisins. Table 6. Now keep your eye on your solution there. This is a flask that's filled with Sprite. And Diego Vea, can you tell me what was an example of a solute in your Sprite?
The CO2.
Yeah, the CO2 is dissolved. And sugar's dissolved. And then, Christiana, what's the example of the solvent in Sprite? What's the water's the solvent. So as you think about those bubbles there, they've dissolved in water. Think about why those raisins rise and fall. Because you just had one that went up and there it goes back down. So Diego, why does that raisin rise and fall like that?
Maybe the bubbles from the carbon dioxide pops and it doesn't support enough.
Okay, so you're saying that the bubbles pop while they're on the raisin?
Yes, and then it can't hold it anymore and then it falls back.
So I see bubbles that are on the raisin. I see what you're saying. And the bubbles touch the surface and they pop, and then the raisin sinks when the bubbles pop?
And then when it gets more bubbles and it goes back up.
Oh, and it goes down, collects more bubbles, and it becomes more positively buoyant, and up it goes. That's brilliant. I'm at table 7. Table 7, add your raisins. Add your raisins. Take a look at your solution, and let's ask Ava. Ava, can you tell me what's an example of a solute in Sprite?
The CO2 and sugar.
The CO2 and sugar, that's right. And Kate and Franklin, what's an example of a solvent in Sprite?
The water.
The water. The water is the solvent that dissolves the sugar and the CO2. Now, you've got some raisins there that have some bubbles forming on them. What do you predict will happen when there are more bubbles stuck to your raisin? What do you predict might happen?
It will rise up.
Okay, so Laisha says if that raisin gets enough bubbles, maybe it'll become positively buoyant and it'll rise. Okay, let's look at your raisins. They're getting ready. And if they do rise, I want you to think about why is that? I'm going to come back here to table 1 because you guys had a couple raisins that were going up and down. Any idea as to why some of your raisins were rising and falling? There's one's going up.
Maybe because the bubbles were taking it up.
Okay, so Mohamed, say that again.
Maybe because the bubbles were taking it up.
The bubbles were taking it up, and I see bubbles on that one. Okay, so Mohamed, if the bubbles are taking the raisin up, why does it fall when it gets to the surface?
Because the bubbles pop.
Say it again.
Because the bubbles pop.
Because the bubbles pop at the surface. Awesome. So when it goes to the bottom, we say it's negatively buoyant, and when it's at the surface, it's positively buoyant. There goes a floater right there. And this is something that you can do very easily at home with 7-Up or Sprite or what have you. 6th graders learning the difference between a solvent, a solute, and a solution. And the essential question, what causes that raisin to rise and fall? Nice job, you guys.